Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to build on our tonal sketching skills where we sketched a sphere, a cylinder and a cone, all using the light coming in from the top left hand side and using a grayscale as a model of light, medium and dark tone to build up a three-dimensional sense of form. So here we're setting out a page. We're coming in from the edge a little bit so that we leave a white border around the outside. Starting with a division, halfway division horizontal line and a quarter way division to divide the bottom as well. Now it doesn't quite make sense exactly what we're doing here, but we're going to build up a perspective drawing. So this is a bit of an introduction to what is called one-point perspective. So here we're going to again divide by sight the very bottom line into 4 equal sections. The halfway line across represents a horizon, as if we were looking out towards the horizon, and always on the horizon that is the place where the vanishing point is. Now the 4 points that we put along the very front bottom of the picture, they are just divisions, as if we were going to create something like a table in perspective made of 4 boards. It could also be considered a checkerboard, and now we're going to do some checkers. So if we just divide the section up from the diagonal, that actually gives us some points that will help us to divide up into checkers, and each of these little checkers is going to be a location where we put one of our forms, a sphere, a cylinder or a cone, although we could equally do a chess piece, we could do a checkerboard with some low flat cylinder checkers. I'm going to start at the back. It's easier to start at the back, and in that area I could do a checker, but in this case I think I'll do something like a cylinder. Now strange things happen with cylinders as you go up closer to the horizon. If the cylinder was the height that it landed right on the horizon, we'd be looking directly across at it and it would be perfectly flat. You'll notice that that it gets a tighter oval the closer to the horizon it gets. So I've also put in there a sphere and a cone. You can create these as much as you like, bearing in mind that we need to think about what things are going to be in front. So the ways that we describe them as being in front is not just which square they land on, but also the idea of overlapping. So just a few reminders that the lower down the picture, the more circular ovals become. So here I've got another cylinder sphere behind, and over on this side also I think I'll put another very tall cone. In this case it goes above the horizon. We won't say very much about that now, but that actually means that we're partly looking up at the point there. So things that are directly on the horizon, they're directly at the same level as our eye level. Things that are below we look down on as if on a table, and things that are above we look at that will be above the horizon line. And next, much like we learned earlier on, we are simply dividing each of these up into the shades, giving them a number value the same as our grey scale, from 1 to 5, from white to black if you like, from light to dark, and starting to shade those in. And because we wanted to eventually arrive at just one picture, a good idea is to do all of the, or as much of the particular tone at any one time as you can. So Here I'm working through all the areas that I've given a tonal value of 1. Very light. You could go lighter than that by leaving them completely white, but I actually think it's a good thing to because we want to do sketching, to do even our lightest bits should have some sort of markings on them. Now we're moving on to the number 2 area, referring back to our grayscale from previous drawings, and working our way around the picture, each of the forms there, so that it's a good idea to try and make the objects look more rounded by letting them become a little bit dark on even the bright side, so the highlight is not quite at the very side, but a little bit more around towards the front. Notice that with the cylinder we're working on here, we've made it a hollow cylinder, and remember that when we are dealing with light falling on the hollow part, it works quite differently to the outside of the cylinder. The opposite inner edge gets more light to the outside edge, which has the maximum light. So think that through. Maybe set up a cup if that is confusing for you, because it works in real life as well as in drawings. Also, as you progress through, I keep holding the pencil in various different ways here, and I keep changing my pencil from time to time too. Normally I would be going off and sharpening my pencil periodically. I'm using a 3B pencil again here, but it gets blunt, and you really do need a good, consistently sharp pencil to do consistent line work coming out the edge. Now notice that your sketching gets much smaller and more careful, but still sketchy for the finer details. Going up to the edge of an area is really, really important, such as where one object meets another. You can't be too sketchy there. You want to have a nice clear edge and not let one thing blend too much into the other. You want to really separate those objects by being careful with your sketching. So don't forget that with the cone shape, the form that tone takes is the idea that each area goes all the way to the point. The cone that we're placing over this side, we've decided to just remove the top from. It could equally be a hollow cone. You could sort of solve that as well, but in this case it's going to be a cone with the top taken off and just a white or light top placed on it. This sort of drawing could equally be done not just with ordinary shapes like this, but could be a still life with masking tape, with balls on the table. It could be with a salt shaker or anything that takes one of these forms of a sphere, a cylinder and a cone. You could equally put in squared objects such as cubes, such as books, various things like that. And mastering these skills, these are the rounded forms that we're working with at the moment, but the square ones are easier. You can work out just by common sense where the light, the medium and the dark would need to go on each object. Think it through, if need be even set up the objects, but this is a sort of a theoretical approach that allows you to sort of almost invent your own sketches. So as we arrive at the darkest tones, many people sort of get a bit lazy and don't bother to get to the darkest tone. Your drawings will be richer and stronger and much more vibrant if you get into the very, very dark blacks, as dark as you can actually get out of the pencil that you use. Once again, we're using a 3B in this case, and really emphasize and take great care with some of the key areas, such as the inner section of that hollow cylinder. Now as we progress on, we'll eventually start working back over a few of these areas to make them blend one into the other. We avoid smudging with our finger or anything like that. We try to do our blending through our sketching technique. So we're not too far off finishing the shapes in one sense, but now we want to turn it into a nice drawing. So here just emphasizing the fact that an object like the cone will have a shadow. It will have a particular shape that will come to a point. It will come from the edges of the cone. Likewise, a sphere will cast a shadow, and based on our previous drawings, you'll have a bit of a sense of what that will be. In this case, I think that probably the hollow cylinder will cast a shadow on the cone behind it. So there's a bit of a guesswork as to how you might do that. But if you can solve that convincingly, you can do a really, really good job of it. So now we're working on with background and just shading in different areas that will enrich the whole drawing. We try to maintain our same sketching technique working with the background. If we sort of rush this or have a different technique, it'll spoil the overall look of the drawing. Remember that we're trying to do a sketch. We're trying to do a drawing, and it's not a drawing of some shapes, it's a drawing that includes some shapes. So the background is a really important element of making the most of the shapes that we're doing. So I haven't put any number values on the background at all, and in fact I think that's a bit deliberate, because as you progress through your drawing you can think about what amount of tone, light or dark, will work best at different points in the background. You can vary that, so it's dark in some places, light in others, and that's often the case that you will do that in such a way that either emphasizes an edge with a shape or blends in with a shape, so that sometimes an edge might be hidden, and sometimes it will be really contrasting, and sometimes it'll be somewhere in between the two. So as you work towards finishing the drawing there, what you should start to do is to really just look at your drawing, ask yourself, is this working as best it could? What would help it? What areas need to be darker to make it look better? And various things like that. If you think about those things and look at your drawing, then I think you're well on the way to having a really nice, well-resolved end product. So I'm going to finish speaking there. I've said more than enough. I'll just let this go to some sort of conclusions. It won't be quite complete because that might take a little too long, but I'd encourage you to do a drawing something like this and see what you come up with. Having mastered something like this, then I think you can do all sorts of far more interesting real objects. So thanks for watching.
We shall see.